Dear students, welcome to the first lecture in Study Skills, which is entitled An Introduction to MLA Format, which stands for Modern Language Association of America. What is MLA formatting? MLA style, which stands for Modern Language Association of America, is most commonly used to cite sources when writing a research paper, a dissertation, or a thesis in humanities. In our case, we are concerned here with the measure of literature and civilization. This format was founded by Aaron Marshall Elliott in 1883. Since texts have become increasingly digital and multi-locational, the 8th edition of MLA relies on a set of guiding principles that are flexible and process-based rather than following a rigid list of rules and instructions that focuses on the publication format. Why should you document your sources? References should be formatted in a standard way to foster comprehension between scholars and researchers and make communication easier and faster. Second, the documentation of sources is considered as a key feature of academic integrity, which is the commitment to and the demonstration of honest and moral behavior in academic setting. Third is to enhance authenticity and avoid the charges of plagiarism. You should note that MLA style attempts to construct universal guidelines that you can use even if you deal with a new medium or a publication format. MLA style also attempts to be flexible by showing that there is more than one correct way to document your source. By thinking of the process rather than the publication format, the core features of documentation are followed by a corresponding punctuation to make things easier to remember as you are dealing or citing your works. By the end of your paper, you should mention the works that you have cited by following these guidelines. The core elements of the process of citing sources are 9 features in MLA, the 8th edition. The first feature is the author who wrote the source. You should begin the entry with the author's last name followed by a comma and the rest of the name as presented in the work, and this element with a period, as you see in the example of Homibhabha. The second feature is the title of source, or the title of what is written. The title of the source should follow the author's name depending upon the type of source. It should be listed in italics if it is a book or a quotation marks if it is an article. As you see in our example, it is made in italics because it's a book, the location of culture. The third element is the title of the container, which means the larger file or folder where the source is located. For example, the container might be a book of collections, a web page, a television series or channel. The title of the container is usually italicized and followed by a comma, since the information that follows next describes the container. For instance, in our example, we have here the short story girl is located in the container, which is a collection of short stories. It is entitled The Vintage Book of Contemporary American Short Stories. And you have to note that a comma must follow. The fourth feature is the other contributors who contributed to the source. In addition to the author, there may be other contributors to the source who should be credited, such as editors, illustrators, translators, and so on. If their contributions are relevant to your research or necessary to identify the source, include their names in your documentation. As we see in our example, that the other contributor to this book, to the book of Foucault, is the translator Richard Howard. The fifth feature is the version, or which we can answer this question: which work you are citing exactly. If a source is listed as an edition or a version of a work, include it in your citation. As in our example, this book is considered as the third edition. 6. Number. Some containers, such as journals, have a numbered sequence that should be cited. For example, in our case here, the journal Peace Research is its number is volume 6, number 3, and we have to mention this. 7. Publisher, or the publisher who produces or distributes the source to the public. In our case, or in this example of the Homi Bhabha's book, The Location of Culture, the publisher is Routledge. 8. Publication date, which means the year of production. And in the case of our example, we see that we put the publication date at the end if it is a book. 9. Location, which means the page or the URL of the information. It means where we can find or we can locate exactly the source that you have cited. In our example here, the short story of the Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie on Monday of last week is located exactly in the category of pages between 74 and 94. Well, there is a good technique that would make things easier for you. Well, we can explain it through this example. It shows how it is important to fill down the chord chart of each source before citing it in your list of references. For example, here we have the author. You can put the name of the author in the chart, the title of source, the container, if there exists any other contributors. If, for example, you are dealing with a book and there is no version, no number, you just skip it, move to the publisher, put the publisher name, publication date, and the location, and you have to make sure to put the corresponding punctuation that goes after your feature. After that, you are going to transform it just in a final works cited list entry. And here we go, as you see in the example. Yeah, if you practice more, you are going to find it easier, and the more you practice, the better you get. MLA manuscript formatting. With the digital rise, PDF format becomes a representation of what a printed manuscript looks like. Having said that, the traditional printed paper is still considered as a convention. So as you start writing your work on the first page, you have to be careful because you are going first to select the margins of your paper, in which you are going to leave 1 inch at all sides, and 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. When it comes to text formatting, first of all, you have to choose a readable typeface, which normally you choose Times New Roman with a standard size of 12 points. The entire research paper should be double-spaced. The first line of each paragraph should be indented a half an inch from the left margin, which is 1.27 centimeter. One space should be left after the use of punctuation marks. When it comes to the heading and the title, we can see in this illustration, which is entitled Figure 1, the top of the first page of a research paper, how things are organized. You have to leave a double space between your name and name of the teacher and the title, and the first line of the paragraph should be indented half an inch. The same goes for the list of works cited, which is demonstrated in figure 3, the top of the first page of a works cited list. As we see here, the heading, you have to put the heading at the center, and you have to leave 1 inch between the top and the heading. When it comes to the first citation, as you see, the first line should be, you should leave, 1 inch. After that, you are going to put a hanging indentation of half an inch. For tables and illustrations, the label table and the title should be listed above the table, and the source should be located under the table, as we see the demonstration in figure 4, which is entitled A Table in a Research Paper. You should also know that we can put in our research papers illustrations, such as pictures and maps. When it comes to their format, we should refer to them as figure, and after that we have to add a title and a source, and everything should be located under the visual illustration and not like the case of the table. In case you put the source and this source is not used in your paragraphs or in your in-text citation, there is no need to put it later in your list of references. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. I hope things now are getting clear when it comes to MLA format. You need this tool if you decide or you choose to work on literature or civilization in the coming years. So you have to practice this format. In case you have any questions or any comments, please leave them below and we shall discuss them.